Time magazine.
Thank you, Johnny. Our guest here this evening in the Hobby Hut is Mulford B. Thaxter of Skokie, Illinois. And he's a leader in his field, and that is collecting numbers from places where they ask you to take a number. Is that right?
Well, I'm a little modest to say I'm a leader in the field, Neil, but my collection does number over 1,200, and that's 3 times the number of the next largest collection of numbers from places where they ask you to take numbers.
I think that certainly qualifies you as a leader in the field. But we're all interested. How did it get started?
Well, like all great things, Neil, it was an accident. About 4 years ago, I was going to take my little boy, Mulford Jr., down for an ice cream cone. And we got to the ice cream parlor, and there was a thing on the counter that said, please take a number. So I took one.
And that's how your collection gets started?
No, not that fast, Neil. Oh? I would have been happy to leave the number there. Well, this is it. It's one of those plastic numbers that they use over and over again. But if they just called it out, I would have left it.
Well, something must have happened there to turn you from just an average consumer into an avid collector. What was it?
Well, as you can see, the number there is 72.
Yeah.
And the number that the clerk called at that moment was 56. Now, it was crowded in there and it was warm. And I knew...
The little boy, of course, was whimpering for ice cream.
Oh, that was the key to the whole thing. I knew Mulford Jr. wouldn't wait around for them to serve everybody from 56 to 72. So I started putting this number back on the rack.
And something stopped you?
Yes, by that time, more people had come in, and the number showing on the rack was 75.
Uh-oh. That presented you then with the problem of putting it back or taking it with you. And that's how your collection gets started.
How did you know? Have I told you this story before?
I just guessed it. But it's amazing to me that you managed to collect 1,200 of these things in 4 years.
Well, it's a lot easier when you take a number and leave than taking a number and waiting to be served. Now, I get specimens from collectors all over the world. This one was sent from a hobbyist in Russia. Isn't that a beauty?
Well, it seems to be made out of twine, woven straw, and look at this number, 2,541.
That's right.
Consumers seem to wait a little longer over there than they do here.
Well, the gentleman who sent me that said it came from an automobile showroom. I guess they have a shortage of cars over there. He said he'd have to wait about 4 years to be served if he took a number for himself.
Say, you know, when you have interesting stories like that to go with your numbers, it makes your collection very, very interesting.
Doesn't it, though? Let me show you. This is the oldest one in my collection, and it dates back to the Oklahoma land rush. Look at that. It's made out of wood.
Number 1.
Has the number 1 right on it. Interesting story goes with that, Neil. It belonged to a storekeeper in a very remote section of Oklahoma who only had 2 customers. So he only needed 1 number in case he was serving 1 customer and the other one came in.
That's ridiculous.
I know it is. I made the story up because you said they were so interesting.
Well, thanks, anyway, for trying to make your collection more interesting than it really is, you know.
Sure.
And thanks for being our guest here in the Hobby Hut.
Pleasure.
Good. And friends, won't you take this advice? Get yourself a good hobby.